Number 1 in Review for Exam Part 2 is a linear equation, and we're going to start by simplifying the right-hand side. Okay, so here we go. 3 minus 3x is equal to 5, and now we're going to distribute the minus 3. Minus 3 times 2, so we have minus 6, and minus 3 times minus 5x, we have plus 15x. Continue simplifying the right-hand side. We'll just subtract 5 minus x. Okay, so we have 3 minus 3x is equal to minus 1 plus 15x. And now we'll gather together the x terms, add 3x to both sides. Okay, and let's isolate the x term, add 1 to both sides. And finally, to get x by itself, we'll divide by the coefficient of x, divide by 18. And we have x equal 4 over 18. We can reduce that, divide top and bottom by 2, to 2 over 9. In number 2, we have another linear equation, and we have some denominators 3 and 6 that we want to clear out. All right, so this is part of the simplifying process that we do before we start solving. And so we're going to multiply both sides by the common denominator, multiply both sides by 6 to clear out those denominators. All right, so we'll be multiplying by 6 on both sides. Okay, we'll multiply this side by 6 as well. All right, so here these 6's cancel. On the left-hand side, we have to first multiply through, distribute through before we do canceling here, because we want to make sure to multiply 6 times 5. Okay, so let's do that. So we have 6 over 1 times 2x plus 1 over 3 plus 5 times 6, that's 30, is equal to x plus 2. All right, now let's divide 3 into 6. We have a 2 here, and this 2 is going to multiply 2x plus 1. All right, so let's do that. So we have 4x plus 2 plus 30 is equal to x plus 2. Now add 2 plus 30, so 4x plus 32 is equal to x plus 2. And now let's say we subtract x from both sides so that we only have one x term. So that's 3x plus 32 is equal to 2. And now let's isolate 3x by subtracting 32 from both sides. Let me just... Okay, so we have 3x is equal to minus 30, and finally isolate x. We're going to divide both sides by 3, and we have x is equal to minus 10. Number 3 is a linear equation, and 2 of the coefficients have decimals in them. So again, we're going to start by simplifying, and we'll simplify by multiplying both sides by 10, and that will move the decimal over. Okay, so we'll get rid of the decimal. So let's do that. So we have 10 times 3.5x minus 2. That's multiply the entire left side by 10 and the right-hand side as well. 10 times 2.3x plus 1. Okay, distribute through like this. So we have 10 times 3.5, that's 35x, minus 2 times 10, minus 20, is equal to 10 times 2.3, 23x, plus 10 times 1, plus 10. Okay, now we'll gather together the x terms. We'll subtract 23x from both sides. So we have 12x minus 20 is equal to 10. and add 20 to both sides. (12x) is equal to 30, and finally divide by 12 to isolate x. So we have x is equal to 30 divided by 12, and let's reduce that, dividing top and bottom by 6. So we have x is equal to 5/2. In number 4, we want to solve for x. Okay, notice we have a b over here, and we're going to treat that as if it were a constant. Okay, so if we'll multiply through by 3, we'll start, distribute the 3, and we have 3 times 2b, that's 6b, minus 3 times minus 5x, that's minus 15x, is equal to 2x plus 4b. All right, let's say we add 15x to both sides. That's gathering together the x terms. So we have 6b is equal to 17x plus 4b. And then we can subtract 4b from both sides. On the left we have 2b is equal to 17x. And then finally just divide by 17. And here's our solution in terms of b. X is equal to 2b over 17. Number 5 at first glance appears to be a quadratic equation because of this x squared term, but we're going to see that that's going to cancel out because we're going to get the same term on the left-hand side. Okay, so let's see that. Let's start by multiplying through by x here, and we have 3x minus x squared plus 5 is equal to 2 minus x squared. So we see we have a minus x squared here and a minus x squared. We can just cross those out, or we can, let's say, add x squared to both sides. Okay. All right, so these cancel, and we have 3x plus 5 is equal to 2. So we see this turned into a linear equation. And we'll subtract 5 from both sides. And we have 3x is equal to minus 3. And finally just divide by 3. And we have x is equal to minus 1. Number 6 is a quadratic equation. Let's open up parentheses and we'll see that. Multiplying through by x, we have 3x squared minus 14x is equal to 5. So we're going to try to solve this by factoring. Let's subtract 5 from both sides, and we have 3x squared minus 14x minus 5 equals 0. So we put this is in standard form now, and so now we're ready to factor. Standard form has 0 on the right-hand side. Okay, so we're ready to factor. We'll try to factor this by reverse FOIL. Okay, 3x squared is equal to 3x times x. So the first times the first is the first here. Let's see. This is negative. C is negative, so our signs are different. All right, let's see. Let's try plus minus. We'll start with that. And now 2 factors whose product is 5. That would be only 5 times 1 or 1 times 5. Let's start with 1 times 5. All right, and now check the middle term here. Let's see if we get a minus 14x. Well, here we have a minus 15x plus 1x. That does give us a minus 14x. So this is the right factorization. The next step is setting each factor equal to 0. So we have 3x plus 1 equal to 0 and x minus 5 equal to 0. All right, on the right over here we're going to add 5 to both sides, which gives us x equal 5. That's one solution. And here we'll just solve, subtract 1 from both sides, 3x is equal to minus 1, and divide by 3. And we have x is equal to minus 1/3. So those are our 2 solutions. Number 7 is a quadratic equation, and it's in the form something squared equal to a number. So we can solve this by taking the square root of both sides. So when something's in that form, okay, the form that I called some expression in x squared equal to a number, we can take the square root of both sides, or the plus minus square root. So on the left we have 2x minus 3, and on the right we have plus minus the square root of 7. Okay, add 3 to both sides, and we have 2x is equal to 3 plus or minus the square root of 7. And let's divide by 2 now. And we get that x is equal to 3 plus or minus the square root of 7 over 2. Number 8 says, if x squared plus 12x is equal to 2, then x plus 6 squared is equal to blank. Okay, so this problem requires completing the square. If we complete the square on the left-hand side, we will get x plus 6 squared. All right, so let's do that. Let's complete the square. I'm getting ready to add half the middle term squared to both sides, so I put these two blanks in here. All right, so now 12 is equal to twice 6. So that means to complete the square, we're going to be adding 6 squared to both sides. All right, so we're going to add 36 to both sides. All right, we do that so that the left-hand side is a perfect square and we can factor it. And this factors as x plus 6 times x plus 6, or x plus 6 squared. And on the right we have 38. All right, so that answers the question. We see that x plus 6 squared is equal to 38. So that's the answer, 38. Number 9 is a quadratic, and you can start by trying to factor, and you'll see that this particular quadratic can't be factored. All right, if you can, because c is positive and we have a negative here, that means if this were to be factorable, both signs would be minus. And then the only way to factor 1 is 1 times 1. All right, but the middle term here is not minus 10x. So this would be the only possibility, but we don't get the right middle term. So this cannot be factored. So if we have a quadratic that can't be factored and that we need to solve, we can always use the quadratic formula. So let's do that. X equal minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And we'll substitute in. First I set it up using parentheses, getting ready to substitute. All right, b is minus 10. That goes here and here. A goes here, that's 2, and c is 1. Okay, so let's just work this out. So this is 10 plus or minus the square root, and here we have 100 minus 8. 100 minus 8, so that's 92. Over 2a, oh I say I didn't substitute in the a, let me do that. Let me go back and substitute in a here. Okay, a is 2. So here I have 2 times 2, or 4. Okay. Actually, we can reduce this a little bit, so let's do that. 92 is divisible by 4. Okay, so this is 10 plus or minus the square root. 4 times 23 over 4. So then this 4 comes out of the radical as a 2. All right, so we have 10 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 23 over 4. And then we can divide top and bottom by 2. So that would be 5 dividing by 2 plus or minus the square root of 23 over 2. So that's the reduced solution. Number 10 is another quadratic, and again, if you tried factoring this, you would see that you wouldn't be able to factor it. So this is not factorable. So we'll go to the quadratic formula. All right, so again, we have x equal minus b plus or minus the square root. B squared minus 4ac over 2a. And get ready to substitute. Okay, so here we put b, which is minus 1, goes here and here. And here we put a, and here's c. And here's a. Okay, so we have 1 plus or minus. And now underneath the square root, we have 1 minus 4 times 3 is 12 times 10 is 120. 1 minus 120. Okay. So this is obviously negative. All right, so let me just write this. This is 1 plus or minus the square root of minus 119 over 6. Okay, so because we have a negative under the square root, there's no real solution. So that's what we write here. Okay, we're solving an inequality now, a less than symbol, inequality. Let's multiply through by minus 5. So we have 3 minus 10x plus 20 is less than 10. Okay, just combine the like terms here, and we have 23 minus 10x is less than 10. Okay, subtract 23 from both sides. And we have minus 10x is less than minus 13. And now we're going to divide by minus 10. All right, so here we have to use our rule that when we divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, we have to switch the direction of the inequality symbol. So we did that. Okay, so here these cancel, and we have x greater than minus 13 over minus 10, that's 13 over 10. Okay, here's another inequality, minus 2 over 3x greater than or equal to 10. All right, so we have a negative coefficient, and it's a fraction. In order to get rid of that, in order to get rid of the coefficient in front of x, we can multiply by the reciprocal. So let's do that. We're going to multiply by 3 over minus 2. And we're multiplying by a negative, so we have to use our rule over here, switch the direction. All right, this cancels, and we get just x on the left-hand side. And here we have 10 times 3 over minus 2. We can divide the minus 2 into the 10. Okay, and so that gives us a minus 5 times 3. All right, so we have x is less than or equal to minus 15. This is our last question in review part 2. We're going to solve this double inequality. All right, so let me just rewrite over here. Okay, 1 second. Let me just change this 1 second. Okay. All right, we want to isolate x in the middle, so we'll start by getting rid of this 4, subtract 4 from all three sides of the double inequality. Okay, so we'll bring down this minus 2x in the middle. And here we have a 2, and here we have minus 6. Okay, now to isolate x in the middle, we're going to divide by that coefficient of minus 2. All right, so again, here we're dividing by a negative, so we'll switch the direction of the inequality when we do that. Okay, so here we have x is between, here we have a minus 1, and here we have plus 3. Okay, now we would like to write these double inequalities with the smaller number on the left and the bigger one on the right. So let's rewrite this. Let's put the minus 1 on the left, the 3 on the right, and let's make sure that it says the same thing that this inequality says. This inequality says that x is less than 3. So I write that, x less than 3, and x greater than minus 1. So write that as well, x greater than minus 1. So there we go. There's the inequality.